Hi everyone, Zach here, and welcome to Lesson 18 in this series on developing a survival game. In this video, we'll be creating our discard menu. This is the menu that will allow us to discard multiple items, or multiple instances of one item in a single go. That said, this series has been brought to you by my Patreon sponsors, and all of that said, open up your projects and let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome back to the editor, and in this video we're going to set up our discard item menu. So that said, let's move to our core, our widget elements, our inventory, and in here we're going to create a new widget, and it'll be WBP underscore discard item. Let's pop this open, and we'll start in the event graph. We are going to set the screen size from fill screen to desired. We're doing this because we are going to put this widget in another widget. And we are going to set the screen or the size we want using a size box. No, hang on. First we're going to delete the canvas panel. Then we're going to add a size box. Now, because I'm aware of that bug I mentioned, and I kind of showed it to you, the fact I had to do a name called good menu just to make sure, this is going to be discard menu size. Now, I'm using discard to identify which one it is instead of menu size or size box. I'm going to set my width and height overrides. My width will be 450. My height will be 300. So on my screen, if I zoom out, that's about as well. It'll be a bit bigger. Be about that big on my 1-to-1. That'll be that big on my screen. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to that. Now, the part that actually caused all the bugs for me is the next part we're going to do. So I'm going to grab a border. I'm going to drop it in here, and I'm going to very carefully name this discard. That's the part that I forgot. Outer border. All right, for our discard outer border, all we're going to do is we're going to change the alpha on our tint to 0.5 so we get this muddied white color. I'm going to grab another border, and this is the second part that would cause issues. Again, going to intentionally include the word discard. I don't care what other part you included this. It needs to be different enough because we're going to use this pattern of size box, outer, inner borders. So they need to have unique names across each of our menus. And this will be our inner border. And on our inner border, I'm going to go to a gray shade of 0.073 by 0.073 by 0.073. I'm going to leave the alpha as is. Everything else is going to be left as is. Inside of here, I'm going to have my canvas. So I'm going to grab my canvas menu, drop it into my inner border there. And like my normal paranoid self, because again, I know I'm going to use the same structure of size box, inner, outer, menu, canvas panel, we're going to name this discard, just so again, we have some uniqueness. Menu, canvas. Now we get into some of the more fun stuff, I guess. Fun is relative. Take an image, and this will be our item icon image. Drop it onto our screen there. This will be our discard item IMG for image. And we're going to leave the anchor in the top right corner. But what we're going to do is we are going to set our size to be... All right, so I did skip a step here slightly, but we don't need to go back too much. All we need to do is right-click our discard item menu image and wrap with. And we're going to wrap it with a size box. Make sure you don't switch over to replace with. There we go. Select the new size box we have, and this is going to be our discard item, or discard image size box. From there, what we'll do is we'll take the size box, and we are going to do a width and height override. Actually, sorry, we're not going to do it as an override. We're going to use our size X and Y here. But first, let's just move this over 10 units to on the x-axis and 10 units on the y-axis. Then let's set our size to 150, our icon size, by 150. Again, our total icon size. In our item image, we need to make no changes here. Next, what we'll do is we're going to create a text in this area that will say what our item is. So grab your WBPC custom text, because that has our font included. Drop it onto the canvas panel. Select your text. Let's just rename this as discard item text. And we're going to put this in the upper right corner. And we're going to set the position X to -248, position Y to 0, size in the X-axis to 225 by 90. And then what we'll do is we'll type in, and you're going to notice an area here, large food crate X99 as just dummy text. But notice what happens. We go this way. Well, how do we fix that? Well, we can set it to do multi-line. So if we scroll down here, we'll find a button called, or an area called wrapping with a button called auto wrap text. Select auto wrap text and notice what happens. All right, there we go. After that, we're gonna have some text down here, a button, another button, text between the two buttons, and a cancel and discard, or cancel and confirm button. So let's start with our sort of descriptive text. We're going to grab a, before we go any further forward, make sure to mark the discard item text as variable. Grab another WBPC custom text and drop that onto your canvas panel. Select that new text, and this will be discard descriptive text. These names are getting longer, clearly. For anchors, select the left and right anchor, so the one on the far right here that's currently pulsating on the screen. And what we're going to do is we're going to set our offset left to 0, which it already is. Actually, set our offset left to 5, the offset or position Y to 0, the offset right to 5 as well, and leave the position at 30. For our alignment in the Y, it's -0.05, and that brings us this down slightly from that center line, because that center line puts us right in the image. For our text, what we are going to do is the $, the hashtag, whatever the heck you want to call it, or number symbol, to discard. And then I'm going to put a colon at the end there. And now we have a number to discard. So however many of these we are going to discard. And we're going to leave all the other settings for this as is. Next, grab a button. Again, drag that onto the canvas panel. Instead of dropping on there, I just dragged it on this time, I realize. This will be our discard minus button. And we are going to set this to have an anchor on the center left. We will position it, or position X as 10, Y as 0, and we're going to use our alignment to change it. We'll use alignment of -1. Now don't worry about it overlapping right now. We'll take care of that in a moment. We're going to do size to content, and really quickly I'm going to change my size Y to 30. All right, so what we'll do is we will add a bit of text to this. Again, I'm going to grab my custom text, drop it in, and I'm going to change this to my discard minus button text. And all I'm going to do is put a space, dash, space for our minus symbol. Notice now we're not overlapping it anymore. And looks like all the settings are correct there. That's wonderful. I am going to select the button, not the entire thing, thank you. Control C, select my canvas panel, paste it in. This will be my discard plus button. I'm gonna copy the name real quick. And I'm going to set our alignment on this to be on the right side center. The position X will be -60. And the position Y will still be 0. We'll leave that at 100, leave that at 30, leave that at -1. Notice it's lined up. Everything looks nice and pretty. Let's take our custom text here, and this will just add the word text. I pasted in, finally, by the way, the name that I copied earlier. I'm going to select the dash and change that to a plus symbol. Again, leaving the space on either side. All right. So now we have our plus and minus buttons. And in the middle, we're going to have a count text that will say how much the person's trying to discard. So again, I'm going to grab my WBPC custom text and kind of drop it between the two. We'll anchor this to the bottom center. We'll set our position X to 0 or position Y to 0. And now let's also set our text size X to 100 and 30 in the Y. Let's use alignment to get this right. So we're going to center it. So no matter what text shows up, this will always be centered. So for that, if you want to center on the x-axis, it's always 0.5. And let's move this up between our two buttons. That's going to be 1.8 to get the distance we want. And size to content. With it size to content, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rename this button finally. I kind of skipped that step. As our discard amount, or sorry, discard count. Actually, we'll use amount because we use the word amount in our inventory text. Mark it as is variable. And I'm just going to set this to be a dummy text of 999. Not that many of our items can stack that high. And then finally, we're going to have two more buttons down here, as I mentioned, our discard and our cancel, or our confirm and cancel. So again, I'm going to grab a button, just drop it onto the bottom of the screen here. I'm going to select this button, which is already selected, sorry. Scroll up to the top here, set my anchor to the center bottom again, and we'll use alignment again to move this button. I'm going to just leave that at there, and what we're going to do is set it to 1.5 by 1.2. Sorry, I did not mean to set the Y size, 1.2. Size and Y to 30. I meant to set it, sorry, to 80. I meant to set it to 30. And we're going to put some text in here. So grab your custom text, drop it in. And this custom text, oh, sorry. I'm going to just name this discard confirm button. Going to select said button text name, or button name. Select the text, paste that name in, and put in the word text. And in our text, what we'll do is just type in the word discard. We will change the font size to 16 so it fits into the button nicely. And everything else in there will remain the same. I am going to copy this button and text. Thank you. I'm going to paste it into my canvas panel once I figure out where my canvas panel is. There it is. And for this one, what we're going to do is, again, we're going to use the alignment to move the button into position. We will set it on a an x-axis of negative 0.5, and in the y, we'll leave it at 1.2. Position x should be 0, position y should be 0. I was wondering why we were having that issue. This will be our cancel button, or discard, because we're going to use these buttons elsewhere. Discard button, or discard cancel button. Gonna copy that name just so I can paste it more easily into here and put the word text at the end. The text will say, instead of discard, canceled. All right, I'm gonna save everything, and that takes us through making the menu. Let's implement functionality. So we're gonna go over to our graph now, and let's get rid of our pre-construct. Actually, let's get rid of all of these. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with a custom event, because this menu needs to know what item we're getting. So what we're going to do is create a function called update discard, and we're going to get the information that we need. So in update discard, we need first our old friend, index ref, which of course, as usual, is our type integer. We're going to promote this to a variable. Again, this is the index it is in inventory. So index ref. And before we go farther forward, what I'm going to do is I am going to take my non-buttons and I'm going to put them into a component. Actually, it should be components category. And that one will go into a buttons category. That's just easier for me to find my buttons later on. I'm just going to select all those buttons. Unfortunately, you can't multi-select. You have to do this one at a time, which... Sorry for my griping. And I believe we called the index in our last one placement. So let's do the same here, so we at least have the same convention. we're going to create a reference, and this reference will be our inventory actor. This will be not of our BP inventory, but of actor, using that beige circle. All right. As for how this reference is going to work, we're not going to expose it. We're actually going to pass the information in through a function. But for now, let's do references, and we'll talk about how we get that information passed in just a moment. We're going to get this actor, and we're going to use the interface and do the run get item info. We're going to plug that into there. And what index are we getting this item info at? Well, the index we've passed into here. We get this index reference information from our main inventory. So remember that when we do our main inventory, when we create our inventory here, in our little function up here, we pass in an array index that sets the actual index reference, which is usually based on how many slots we have in our inventory. All right. From there, we're going to check, is this empty or not? Remember my challenge from a few videos back about setting this up so the abstraction's a bit better. Also the encapsulation as well. All right, from there, what we're going to do is we're going to pause for a minute and actually set how we get this information. So what we're going to do is create a new function. Sorry, not a new graph, a new function. And this will be set inventory reference. All we're going to do is take our inventory actor, set it here, put a lovely little return node in, our good old friend, the return node, and take from this input pin here and plug directly, from this setter pin, and plug directly into the input pin. And we'll leave the name as is. We will categorize this as our references. Compile, save, back to our event graph here. So with that done, what we're going to do is we are going to set our item text. So remember, the text that we have up here, we need to set. So let's create another new function. Actually, no, we're not going to create another new function. We will, but we'll do it out here like I like to do. Let's get our item details. Let's break. It'd be helpful I can spell break correctly. Our item details. Expand that just for a moment, and we're going to be a bit messy for a moment. Don't worry, we will clean this up. All right, find in your components your discard item text. Grab that and set text. You want set text brackets text. Plug that into there. And again, for good setting up, if you need to do localization, we're going to do format text. And what this will be for us will be item name with the curly brackets around it, space, x, curly bracket without a space, amount. And I use a lowercase x. For amount, what we are going to do is we are going to take from the amount here on the get item info, plug straight into there. For the item name, well, we have item name here, and we plug straight into there. I'm going to take these three nodes, collapse to function, and this will be our set item name text. Just going to line that back up and pop this open, move that there. Put our lovely little return node friend. Return nodes are our friends. Love the return node. Compile. Don't worry about hiding unconnected pins. We still need a pin from this. We are going to then take from the amount again, so I'm going to put a reroute in here. And we are going to promote this to a variable. This will be our max discard amount. This is the amount that we can discard up to, because we can't discard more than we currently have. That'd be a great way to cheat and create extra items in the world, wouldn't it? Put a few reroutes in for now. Again, we'll worry about actually cleaning this up in a moment. Our max discard amount will go into item details as a category. All right, next what we're going to do is we're going to set our item image. So to do that, what we do is we grab our discard item image. We then do set brush from texture. Plug that into there. Move this down here. We don't need to worry about match size, but what we do need is our item icon, and we plug into there. Now, select this thing and hide unconnected pins. And because I don't like that pin going around that way, I'm just going to try to clean this up just a little bit. I mean, it's never going to be perfect, unfortunately. We're going to have crossing pins and all that fun, funky jazz. From there, what we're going to do is we are going to set up a dummy text for now. When we open the menu, we want to say, are you, one item to discard. So what we're going to do is we are going to set our discard amount text. And again, we're going to do our set text. So set text. Plug that directly into there. Again, we're going to use a format. So this will be format. And all we're going to do in here is put a bracket, amount in bracket. And notice we just have the amount. And we're going to take we're going to create a new integer called discard amount. Change that over from actor to integer. We are going to just set that here, and we're going to default the value to 1. So that it always starts with saying, all right, you're ready to discard one item. Pull from that into amount, and we're going to collapse this down to a function. This function will be our set discard amount text. So what happens when we open the menu now is it will display the item name, it will display the icon, and it will default this value to 1. All right, these functions will go into item details because they're related to item details. This function will go into also item details because technically it's about updating the item details. We're going to then create a system where we can either click this button or this button and this number will change. Alternatively, because clicking, if you have a lot of items you want to drop can get tiring, we're going to create a system where we can hold down either button and increase or decrease the amount. And if you want it to work faster, we can talk about in a later video how to create a system that lerps based on how long the button's been pressed down. So I'm going to select my discard minus button, and I'm going to do the on clicked. Now, I'm going to set up a custom event above this. This custom event is going to be when the person holds the button down. So this will be our repeat decrease count. So what we're going to do is create a function that both of these plug into. When you click once, it's just going to fire this. When you hold down, it'll fire this first, and then it'll start firing this off. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our decrease amount that we created earlier, which, by the way, should be in the category item details, and we are going to decrement it. So pull off of that after you get it and do minus minus, decrement integer. We're only going to plug into one of these for now. We'll create a function from this in a moment. So I'm not even going to worry about stringing up the pins. We are going to take this value and clamp though, because we want to make sure that it can't go below 0. And just to save us some ease of time, we're going to change the max, even though we're decrementing, to our max discard, which we've set up here based off the amount we have. We'll then set our discard amount to whatever value comes out. So we are now stuck between a range of 0, discarding nothing, and our max amount. And now I'm going to take all these nodes. I am going to collapse it to a function. This function will be our decrease count. I'm going to plug that into there now. Well, I'm going to move this up closer first. Then I'm going to plug that into there. And we do need a return node in this case. Line up. In our return node, we're going to pass out our discard amount. So I'm going to take this output pin from our discard setter and plug it into the return node for our function. And I'm going to name this discard amount. All right. Our decrease count will go into widget utility as a category. Let's go back to our event graph. In our event graph, we are then going to take our set discard amount text. I'm just going to duplicate it instead of pulling it from here and plug that into there. And the amount, well, our discard amount goes straight into there. What we're going to do now is set up this thing so it actually repeats. To do that, what we're going to do is we're going to select our button again, the discard minus, and we're going to do on pressed. So this is what clicked is when you actually let go of the mouse button. Pressed is when you're holding the mouse button down. We're going to do set timer by event. Again, as I like saying, you could pull off of here and plug that into there. That just looks really messy to me. So I'm going to do create event. The event we're creating is our repeat. If I can find it, it's at the top there. Repeat decrease count. It is looping. It's going to loop at 0.2. And we're going to take this, and we do need the timer handle, so we're going to promote that to a variable. And we're going to actually recycle this timer handle, so we only have one. So it's going to be counter timer handle. If you're not sure why I said we're going to recycle it, we have two buttons that will have the same process, except for they'll do increase versus decrease. Select the button again, the decrease one, and we are going to do on released. And then this one we're going to do is we are going to invalidate our timer handle. So clear and invalidate timer by handle. Plug that into there and line that up. Our counter TH, we're just going to put this in a category called timers. And now we're going to repeat the process one more time for our increase. Now, this one is going to be a bit easier to do because all we have to do is duplicate our decrease amount there and create a new custom event that a timer will set up. So I'm going to open my widget utility. I'm going to right click, not hit rename like I just did, and do duplicate. And this will be our increase count. And all I'm going to do instead of a decrement is I'm going to pull off of here and do plus plus for increment. And I'm going to just replace our decrement node with the increment node. That simple. Line that back up, compile, save, go to my event graph, and I'm going to just repeat this same structure. I'm going to select my discard plus button. We need the on clicked, on pressed, on released. I'm going to move these three nodes just so we have them lined up over here. Well, they're not lined up perfectly, but good enough for government work. Do a custom event on this top one, and the custom event will be repeat increase count. All right, and we're just going to follow the same structure. Set that there with the increase. Plug that in. Get our set discard amount. Plug that in. Our amount comes from our discard amount. Go down to our pressed. We're going to just literally duplicate this set of nodes, including the timer name, or timer variable. And again, create event. The event will be our repeat increase. Be careful that you actually select repeat increase. Down here, I'm going to just literally copy that over, plug that in. All right, that is our primary button setup. So this will decrease discard amount, and this will increase discard amount. I'm going to keep the capitals the same between these two. All right, with that done, we need to do the confirmation and our cancel buttons. So select your, let's do the confirm button first. All right, this is where now we have to pause for a moment and set up the functionality for one of our abstracted data points. So we're going to go to our survival game core, go to interfaces, and in our interfaces, we're going to go to inventory, and we are going to create a new variable, new function, and this will be, add new function, our run set as discarded. Or actually run set as set discard. We're going to do run set as discard because, you know, we might use this elsewhere. We're not setting something as discarded, but setting it as false. It'll have one input because this is an event. We're not going to have any outputs, and that will be discarded. I just spelled discarded wrong, so let me just get that right. There we go. Compile, save. Now, let's go to our inventory and just implement this real quick. Go to your event graph in your inventory. What you're going to do is right-click and find that new event we just created. So we're going to do our run set discarded. There we go. And now we have a way to implement around our abstracted class. Remember, this is private, so we've technically abstracted it. We are going to plug that in, plug that in. Now we are actually setting this, as I said we would do later in this section. Let's go back to our event graph. Let's go back to our discard menus event graph. we're going to select our onConfirmed button. We are going to do onClicked. And what we'll do here is we are going to take our inventory actor. We are going to find that run set discarded. In this case, well, it's true. We're discarding it. We want this to be true. We want it to spawn back in the world. If you don't get why I said spawn back in the world, remember when you discard an item in the inventory, it checks, is the variable was discarded true? If it is, it spawns a version of it in the world. Then we are going to do a run discard. Ooh. Sorry, we're going to go back to our interface. I skipped one very important step. We need a way for our inventory to actually run the discarded event. So the way we're going to do that is, well, so like how we set up our inventory system to run the add item when we pick up an item. So if we go in here, we have our utility related, we have this trigger, add item master. Well, we're going to do something similar. We're going to add actually, you know what? We're going to set this first into a folder called settings. I don't like the fact that I have run and trigger. Yeah, it kind of bothers me. But we're going to create a new event for our utility related called run equip item. Sorry, not equip. That's for the next section. Run discard item. And actually, this is an event. We do need a return off of this. But we have 2 inputs and 1 return. Our inputs are our old friends of index ref, type integer, and our return is amount. By the way, if you don't know why this is, remember what we did in our setup. These are the informations. These are the data that the function discard item requires. And the return is the same return off that function. We'll be putting this in utility related. Compile, save, go to your inventory, go to interfaces, go to utility related, compile if it's not showing up. There's our run as discarded. In our utility functions, we have discard item. Plug that into there by dragging and dropping, if you like the way I did it. Index ref into index ref, amount into amount. Item removed. If it's successful, we'll check there. Back to our menu. And what we're going to do is now run discard item. What are we putting in for our index? Well, we have an index reference. What are we putting in for our amount? We have a discard amount. So index reference and amount is our, not max discard, but discard amount. And then we're going to check, did this work? We'll do a branch. If it did work, then what we are going to do is we will we will hide this menu. So we're going to set visibility. In a few videos, we will have something actually between here where we update the menu itself. But I want to show you why that is. So this is going to be set as hidden. And let's very quickly do our cancel button. For our cancel button, what we are going to do is just hide this menu. Do nothing else. We're going to hide it. And then when we reopen it, it will run that event again. So it'll reset everything. So all I'm going to do is find my cancel button, do on clicked, and duplicate that node. All right. Notice I am not commenting this out per my usual. We actually haven't finished this part out. As I mentioned, we are going to do a bit more. But we now have most of the actually we have almost all the functionality minus the 2 little steps we need to do here for our discard menu. In the next video, we will do our split stack and item detail. So split stack allows us, if I hit play here, when we pick up a stackable item, like one of these herb tests over here, to be able to split it. So if I wanted 3 here and 7 here, or 5 and 5, that will be our split item. And our item details, if I were to hover over this, will display the item details. So the stuff we wrote in the item description. That is really annoying when that wall vanishes. If we go to our item, go to resources, food, and we go to our meat cube, for example, we have a meat-like product that is very filling. It will display that text. course, we will be adding more to that sort of stuff when we actually do our real items. But that said, that takes us through what we need to do in this video. If you've enjoyed the series or this video, please make sure to hit that like button down below. It really does help this channel out, and it lets me know I'm bringing you content that you appreciate. And if you want to be here when we work on our next set of menus and start finally finishing out the rest of our inventory system, make sure to hit that subscribe and notify bell. If you do not hit the notify bell, YouTube might decide not to tell you about the next video until way later. And you don't want to miss that, do you? This series has been brought to you by Patreon sponsors like Rian, Haynes, and Quad Menson. If you want a copy of this project, consider supporting this channel as a Patreon supporter. Patreon supporters at upper tiers get instant access to all ongoing YouTube projects, and at other tiers will get access to projects once the series has completed on YouTube. All of that said, I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.